A Matter of Luck. A program dedicated to the greatest inventor and scientific discoverer the world has known, Lady Luck, and bringing you in one complete 30-minute presentation, two authentic and true stories of remarkable scientific achievement. Tonight we tell you of Michael Faraday and Joseph Patrick, and how each became famous through A Matter of Luck. Michael Faraday and A Matter of Luck. Strictly speaking, Michael Faraday was not an inventor at all, but a man interested in theory alone. He was born to physics and chemistry, if ever a man was. And although his parents were poor, and he was apprenticed to a bookbinder at the age of 13, the year 1814 saw him at 23 employed by that eminent Victorian, Sir Humphrey Davy, as private secretary and laboratory assistant, with the signs of his genius beginning to appear. It was at the Royal Institute in London that his career really began, with what seemed to the shy, frail young man a miraculous offer from the great Sir Humphrey Davy. The Royal Institute, 1814.
You can put aside whatever you're doing at the moment, Faraday. Give me a little of your time. Now then, how would you like to travel?
To travel, Sir Humphrey? I don't know that I can spare the time. There's always work to be done on specific gravities, and I've already travelled a lot.
Uh-huh. So you travelled, have you?
Why, yes, sir. I went to Bristol only last Christmas.
To Bristol? Oh, that's not travelling, boy. Now listen to me. I'm resigning the presidency of the Royal Institute. And now that I've been, knighted, with the grace of His Majesty, Lady Davy and I propose to take an extended trip through the capitals of Europe. There are scientific congresses in Berlin and Rome, and of course we'll spend some time at the Academy in Paris.
You aren't asking me to come too?
What? Oh, not as a guest, of course, Faraday. No, I'm going to be a very busy man, and I shall want the services of a secretary. I've decided that it'd better be you.
But Sir Humphrey, I don't know what to say. Berlin and Paris.
Now, don't make any mistake about it. This won't be a holiday. Not of any manner of means. You'll have to work hard, deuce it hard. Now, you'd count on leaving about about the middle of June.
But there was Lady Davy, narrow, snobbish, and newly conscious of her importance in the social scale.
Really, Humphrey, I must say, you don't seem to consider these things.
No, and how is that, my dear?
This impossible person, Faraday, or whatever his name is. Really, whatever are you thinking of? His father was a common labourer, and as for his appearance, well...
I'm not taking Faraday with us, my dear, for his social accomplishments. I assure you of that.
Then in heaven's name, why must we traipse Europe with him in tow? I tell you frankly, Humphrey, I will not be seen with him, a callow, unfledged youth with the manners of a village lout.
No, come, wife. He's not as bad as all that.
If we are to be received in good continental society, we cannot afford to have the creature for your secretary. I insist that you choose someone else.
You're in a position to insist, woman. Faraday accompanies us, and that is the end of the matter.
It was during the trip over Europe that Faraday's development began in earnest. The conferences with the foremost scientists of the day whetted his already keen appetite for theoretical research, and his brilliant but latent intelligence flowered under the stimulus of wise and inquiring minds. Lady Davy did her best to make his life unpleasant and exerted herself to reduce his status to that of a valet. But if he noticed at all, he gave no sign of it. There were and more important things to occupy his mind, and it is doubtful if he even observed the resentment growing within Sir Humphrey, who saw Faraday, his pupil, rapidly overtaking him in intellectual power. But it was not until the trip was nearly at an end that Faraday had the experience that was to stay in his memory forever, and to lead him indirectly to his remarkable discovery. Sir Humphrey's party were in Rome, staying at a fashionable inn, and late one night, Faraday lay half awake, half asleep, thinking perhaps of the brilliance of a function he had attended that day.
Sir Humphrey! Sir Humphrey, wake up! The inn is on fire!
What? What's the matter?
Hurry, Sir Humphrey, for your life. The inn is burning. Get downstairs quickly before it's too late.
What? Burning? Oh, bless my soul. Angela,
What?
wake up.
Oh, what
House
is happening?
burning down.
What?
Thank a merciful providence we were roused in time. Oh, how ghastly. 50 souls burned alive in that Holocaust. 50 souls burned alive. Turns one's stomach.
Not a finger lifted to save them.
But what am I to do, Humphrey? I haven't a stitch to wear. My gowns, my hats, all burned. Oh, it's infuriating.
Another minute, madam, and you wouldn't have to worry about your appearance. Ever.
Oh, to have to listen to you at such a time.
At such a time, yes. I've had to stand and watch a fearful tragedy, powerless to stop it. Sir Humphrey, if we were half the chemists and scientists we think we were, there'd be a chemical means to stop such fires, to snuff them out in an instant.
What? Oh, don't talk balderdash, Faraday. Fire's fire. That's all there is to it. Standing in the street in your nightcap, talking about snuffing out fires. Must be demented.
The years went by, and Faraday's name became known all over the world. And if certain of his biographers are to be believed, his friend John Abbott's words came true. There grew up a certain animosity between him and Davy, based on the latter's jealousy, and it is even said that Davy tried to blackball him from the Royal Society. But Faraday never forgot the terrible fire in Rome, even though other problems than chemical extinguishers occupied his attention. In 1820, he was working with John Abbott on the nature and properties of iodine and chlorine, two substances that at the time were not fully understood. Some said that chlorine was a compound of two separate elements, so closely united that they could not be found apart. But here, Faraday disagreed.
No, John. I say that chlorine is an element, a simple fundamental substance. I respect it, Sir Humphrey Davy may differ if he wishes, but that's my view.
I'd like to see you prove it. By George, I would. It would serve the pompous ass right.
Well, that's what I propose to do. As you are quite well aware, it is a simple matter to compound forms of chlorine with oxygen, hydrogen, or phosphorus. All dangerous and all poisonous to some degree.
Yes, I know all that.
Very well, then. I'm going to compound chlorine with carbon to make a carbon chloride, then burn it in oxygen.
With what in mind?
Well, let me explain. If this process works, then I am proved right and Davy wrong. Now, first of all, in a large retort.
Many months went by, and then Faraday announced that he had succeeded, that he had discovered two new chlorides of carbon. and chlorine was definitely an element. As usual, there was a controversy about his findings.
Well, of course, Faraday, if you can establish your claims, then I should be the first to congratulate you. But quite frankly, I'm in complete disagreement. Preparing a couple of new chlorides is all very well. I'm afraid that's not enough for me.
Oh, quite so, Sir Humphrey. Now, gentlemen, if you'll gather round, I shall be pleased to show you my reasoning and the means I adopted to prove it. And, by the way, I must ask you to be careful of this flask in particular. It contains pure white phosphorus. It would not do to have it spilled.
Under the watchful eyes of his colleagues, Faraday prepared his chlorides of carbon, and then went through the steps he had taken in proving his theory on chlorine. But to understand what took place in the laboratory that day, it is necessary to know that white phosphorus is one of the most inflammable substances known. So inflammable that it can only be kept under water, for it ignites of its own accord the moment it comes in contact with the atmosphere. Faraday needed it for one of his steps, but at last he was finished. There was no room for doubt. Faraday was right.
So you see, gentlemen, my conclusion is well-founded. And just as a point of interest, the second carbon chloride is an extremely unusual liquid. See for yourself, a heavy, colorless fluid. Well, Sir Humphrey, are you satisfied?
A very simple process, actually. Quite simple.
Rubbish, sir. Faraday has done remarkable work, and you should give him credit for it.
When I want your advice, Abbott, I shall ask for it.
In matters of science, you would do better to ask Faraday's advice.
How dare you, sir? May I remind you that I am past president of the Royal Institute? And as for Faraday, everything he knows he learned from me.
Oh, come, Sir Humphrey. Let's not have a scene. Oh, I implore you, do not wave your arms, sir. The phosphorus...
No, confound the phosphorus.
Oh, the flame's broken it. Quickly, water. The stuff's burning. Water, someone, quickly.
Oh, Hopkins, make haste with some buckets. Keep calm, gentlemen. There's some water here in the room. Yes, that and that. Throw it on the flames. No, not that, you fool. That's carbon chloride. Oh, you maniac. Well, God bless my heart and soul. What's happened here? What's happened to my new chloride?
It's an absolute miracle, Michael. The fire was snuffed out like a candle. Michael Faraday!
What?
This is no time to be staring into space, man. Didn't you see what happened? What are you thinking of?
I'm thinking of a fire in Rome many years ago. I wish I'd known about the chlorides of carbon then, John. I wish I'd known then.
By an accident of the purest chance, Michael Faraday had stumbled on the first chemical fire extinguisher. His liquid carbon chloride had a property he had not even suspected. When it was squirted or splashed on a fire, it was converted immediately to a heavy, non-inflammable vapor, 6 times as heavy as air. And this acted as an instant, suffocating vapor. It is the very same substance that is used today in certain of the fire extinguishers we see on every hand. And it was discovered by luck. All Michael Faraday had in mind when he first made it was to prove to his own satisfaction that chlorine was an element, not, as his detractors said, a compound of other substances. So, of all the discoveries in which Dame Fortune has played a part, surely the first fire extinguisher was least a matter of intent. It was purely and simply a matter of luck.
In just 1 minute, we will tell you the second of tonight's fascinating stories, that of Joseph Patrick. At the moment, you'll be interested to hear this. Back now to our narrator and cast for the second unusual but true story in our program, A Matter of Luck.
Joseph Pettit and A Matter of Luck. In November of 1937, the Grace liner Santa Monica lay beside the docks of Rio de Janeiro, her sides draped with streamers and her decks swarming with passengers. She was about to depart for New York, homeward bound from a summer cruise to South America and the Caribbean ports. The crowds of holidaymakers who crowded her rails were excited and gay, as cruise passengers should be. But there was one exception. A man who stood at the rail with a newly arrived New York newspaper in his hand. Joseph Pettit.
I don't suppose you've seen this, dear.
What is it? Oh, the Herald Tribune. Only the day before yesterday. Airmail, I suppose.
Yes. See this on page 3. I can tell you it's taken the sparkle out of this cruise for me.
Well, what is it? Let me see.
Joel Henderson, shot down in flames.
Oh, how terrible. How absolutely terrible.
It says there in a dogfight over Barcelona. What a way for him to end. We grew up together, Joel and I. He finished in the Spanish War, while I enjoy a South American cruise. Poor old Joe.
Grieving won't help him, Joseph. The boy would go and fight for his ideals. There have to be casualties in war. Any war.
But why burn to death 10,000 feet up in the sky for what doesn't concern you? That's what gets me. Why?
You should know. He was your best friend, wasn't he?
Yes, he was my best friend. Now he's dead. Some blasted pilot puts a bullet through his petrol tank, and that's the end of Joel Henderson. I'm going down to the bar. You needn't expect to see me in the saloon for dinner.
Then I'm coming too. You've lost a friend, Joseph, but you still have a wife.
The cruise came to an end, and Joseph Pettit, the wealthy retired chemist, tried to settle down to an idle life in New York. But like many another retired man of science, idleness soon became tiresome to him. And before long, a makeshift laboratory began to appear behind his house on Long Island. He worked in it without any particular aim, experimenting as much for his own pleasure as anything else, until the winter morning when the thermometer fell far below freezing, and Pettit needed his car.
What is it, Joseph? Won't the car start?
What in the name of Pete does it sound like?
Well, you don't have to bite my head off, do you? What's a morning? What's wrong?
I don't know whether something's busted or if it's just the cold. But I'm going to have a word with the guy that sold me this heap. I know that.
You better have a look under the hood, dear.
Don't worry, I'm going to. Everything seems all right, as far as I can tell. Hey, well, I'll be a son of a gun. Just take a look in there.
I can't see anything.
The cylinder block's cracked from top to bottom. The car's ruined, absolutely ruined. A brand new 12-cylinder Zephyr. I haven't done 5,000 miles, and it's ruined.
How could a thing like that happen?
It's the rotten, bad antifreeze mixtures they sell you. Look, when water freezes to ice, it expands, so you fill the radiator with antifreeze in the winter instead of water, so when the temperature falls below freezing, you don't bust your motor wide open.
Well, why didn't you drain out the water and put in this antifreeze when the weather turned cold?
Look, my loved one, I did put antifreeze in the radiator, but it must be adulterated with impurities because it's frozen solid and the whole engine has split open. Do you understand?
Yes, dear, perfectly.
And do you understand why I'm mad with rage to see my new Zephyr fit for the junkyard?
Yes, dear, but all you have to do is collect the insurance and buy a new one. Joseph, can the new one be the same color as my new hat? Please, Joseph.
Women, may the heaven give me strength.
The incident of the burst cylinder block in his new car was no more than a passing annoyance to Joseph Pettit. He was comfortably off and could well afford to sustain the loss. But the mishap did have one significant result. He decided to put his chemical knowledge to good purpose once more.
coming to meet the holidays?
No, Margaret, I'm not. I'm going to stay here on this experiment.
What are you doing?
I'm concocting my own antifreeze mixture. And it's going to be a doggone sight better than that junk they sell for $2.50.
That was where Lady Luck stepped into the picture. Patrick spent months working to find an antifreeze mixture whose properties would protect his car engine from extremes of cold. One day, he tried a mixture of an ethylene salt with one of the group of chemicals known as the polysulfides. It was a cloudy, heavy liquid with a horrifying smell. And almost at once, Patrick found himself in trouble.
Who is it? What do you want?
You come out here right away, Patrick. I got a bone to pick with you.
Okay, just hang on a minute, will you? Now then, what's the trouble, Mr. Mayhew?
That doggone awful smell is the trouble with me. What's the big idea of making a stink and poison a dog?
What's it got to do with you? This is my house, and if I want to make smells, that's my business.
Is that so? Well, see here, Mr. Patrick. If you think me and my missus are going to spend the rest of our lives in army respirators, you're wrong. Most days, the breeze blows off the beach, past your place to mine, see? You make a stink. We smell it.
Well, smells clearing, I might, and I guess I owe you an apology at that. Why don't you come in and see what I'm doing? I didn't worry about the smell because I thought you were away on vacation.
Well, I guess that's okay, Mr. Patrick. Say, what are you doing here anyway?
I'm trying to discover a new antifreeze. Last winter, I busted the block on my new Zephyr wide open. It's not going to happen again.
This what you're making? This smelly stuff?
That's right. At least I hope so. Haven't tried it out yet. Would you like to stick around a while and watch?
Sure, but what I know about chemistry, you could write on the back of a 2-cent stamp with a charred stick.
Well, here's your chance to learn a little. Now, first, I'm going to clear this liquid, if I can. The best way to do that is add a little acid.
Yeah? Let's see it.
Right. Here's an acid, weak hydrochloric acid. We pour a drop or two in.
Well, what do you know?
Well, that's a funny thing. Instead of clearing, it's set to a sort of gum. See that?
Mighty sticky at that. Yeah. Just like glue.
Well, I've drawn a blank this time, all right. I start out to get antifreeze mixture, and look, goo.
That sure is goo.
Joseph, time you were dressing, dear.
Coming. Sorry, Mr. Mayhew. The wife and I are running up to town to take in a night spot. It's the anniversary of the death of a pal of mine who got shot down in Spain. What say you come around tomorrow and we'll see what we can do with this stuff, eh?
Sure. I'd like to. So long for now.
The following morning, the neighbor Mayhew came to the laboratory as he had promised. And it was just the luck of it that Henderson's memory was fresh in Patrick's mind.
You know, this is something a man could get mighty interested in.
Chemistry? You're right there. And seeing that you're interested, you can give me a hand. Now, here's another tube full of exactly the same cloudy liquid we had yesterday. The stuff that went like glue when we put acid on it.
Except that, if possible, this smells worse.
Not too good, is it? Now, here's what I want you to do. This time, we'll clear it with alcohol instead of acid. I'll hold the Bunsen burner under it if you drop in some alcohol. You got it?
Sure, yeah. Which bottle is the alcohol?
The third from the end, at the left.
Okay. You ready?
Not much now. Just about 20 cubic centimeters.
Right. Well, here we are.
Hey, steady. Well, blow me down. Now see what's happened.
It's gone just like rubber. Yeah, you can't tell it from rubber.
Alcohol shouldn't do that to it. Which bottle did you use?
The one you said.
Oh, you didn't. You grabbed the one next to it. That's gasoline. Smell.
Yeah, sure. That's gas, all right. When you put a few drops in that antifreeze of yours, it turns into rubber. This chemistry sure is an interesting thing.
Say, wait a minute. It congeals like rubber when gasoline comes near it. Say, that gives me an idea. Joel Henderson, a bullet in your gas tank. Yeah.
Something got into you, maybe?
Just a wonderful idea, that's all. Just a wonderful idea. Look, an army pilot having a dogfight. A bullet goes through his tank. Up she goes, right?
I guess so.
Suppose the tank had double walls, and between the two walls you had this fluid of mine. A bullet would go through, the gas would mix, this stuff would congeal, and you'd have a rubber seal immediately. How's that? How's that for an idea?
Well, blow me down.
A bulletproof gas tank, that's what I've invented. A bulletproof gas tank.
Patrick's idea and his chemicals were indeed the crudest application of the principles that are embodied in the tanks of the fighter planes today. He is generally given credit as their inventor, but consider, how many hundreds of lives have been saved by his discovery, or should we say, by luck? It is a definite instance of pure chance, for Patrick was trying to compound his antifreeze mixture, not a liquid that would seal holes in a fuel tank. Much work still had to be done by the war departments of various nations until the device reached its present form. But nevertheless, Joseph Patrick's invention of the self-sealing tank was not at all a matter of intent. It was merely a matter of luck.
Our stories of the chance discovery of the fire extinguisher and the bulletproof petrol tank were dramatized from factual research material by L.J. Hardy and were directed by Donovan Joyce. The performers included Moira Carlton, Robert Bernard, Kenrick Hudson, Clifford Cowley, Williams Lloyd, John Bohr, Harriet Gordon. Your narrator was Richard Davies, who invites you to listen again 1 week from now, same night, time and station, for a further presentation of A Matter of Luck, a Donovan Joyce production.
A Matter of Luck. A program dedicated to the greatest inventor and scientific discoverer the world has known, Lady Luck, and bringing you in one complete 30-minute presentation 2 authentic and true stories of remarkable scientific achievement. Tonight we tell you of Francis Pettit Smith and Charles Martin Hall, and how each became famous through A Matter of Luck. Francis Pettit Smith and a Matter of Luck. Many a man has plodded along a furrow made for him by others or by necessity, though his heart has been a million dreams away, lost in a magic world called If I Only Had a Chance. Francis Pettit Smith was such a man. As a farmer, he certainly plodded his furrow. He certainly had his dreams, and for a farmer, they were strange ones, for he dreamed of ships, ships that moved against the wind, against the tides. Though he knew that in that year of 1835, ships did move against wind and tide by means of great paddles turned by steam engines, his dreams were of a means of propulsion which would do away entirely with the dangerous, fragile, and inefficient paddles and give to a ship a silent, concealed, and almost secret way upon the water. And then one day in 1835, Francis Pettit Smith returned from market with a stranger and an air of great excitement.
Come in, man. Sit down. Here, take this chair by my desk. You can see better.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Smith.
Give me your hat. That's it. Now, take a look at that drawing in front of you, Mr. Glencannon.
Well. You're by way of being a designer of wee ships, Mr. Smith.
A bit rough and ready, I'm afraid. If I'd only become an engineer like you instead of a farmer, by now my ships might be on every ocean of the world.
There's still time, if you've got the right ideas.
What a stroke of luck it was meeting my friend Bailey in town, and you with him. For months I've wanted to discuss my ideas with a trained engineer, and to think that
Well, let's take a look at what you got here. Oh, Mr. Smith, what's this you got? No paddles in your design. And what's this corkscrew affair you've got sticking out at the back?
That's it. That's the whole idea, don't you see? I've discarded the paddles and replaced them with an Archimedes screw.
Shades of Jimmy, what? Next you'll be telling me that the thing works.
It does.
Have you tried it? Have you built a ship fitted with one of these and tried it?
No, I haven't, not yet. But others have.
Then how do you know it'll work?
Because only 7 years ago, a ship fitted with an Archimedes screw did work. I'm not an inventor, Mr. Glencannon. I'm only correctly applying, I hope, the discoveries of others, mainly those of a man named Joseph Ressel. Ressel had the most damnable luck of any man. He hit upon the idea in 1828 and took his plans to a shipbuilder named Ottavio Fontana in Trieste.
Yes, well, of course, my dear Russell, you have not hit on anything new here, have you?
No, senor, nor do I claim to have. But while Bernoulli in 1753, Fitch in 1786, and Delisle in 1814 all went as far as making an Archimedes screw-driven ship, I am the first to apply mathematics to the subject and decide on the best possible shape and size and pitch of the screw.
And very well done, too, my dear fellow. Please do not think I wish to belittle your work. Far from it. I am very impressed. Would it be too much to run over your plans again before I make up my mind?
Very well, senor. Now, we begin here. This drawing shows the ship's stern with the spindle protruding through it. So?
Yes.
You know how the screw of Archimedes worked. It was like a huge wood auger. Archimedes turned his screw to raise water. My screw, attached to the spindle and turned by the steam engine within the ship, will bore its way through the water as an auger does through wood. And the ship will move rapidly ahead.
Yes. Very sound indeed. Herr Russell, my mind is made up. I shall invest money and build your ship, and I have every confidence in it.
You will not regret it. That I promise you.
Good. A bottle of Chianti to seal the bargain, eh?
Chianti, certainly.
Oh, there is one thing I would like to ask you, Russell. How is it that no screw-driven ships have ever been successful before?
Because we had not the proper engines. Until James Watt gave us the steam engine, what was to turn our screws, eh? A screw must turn rapidly, or instead of propelling a ship, it merely thrashes the water.
Yes, of course. Well, now to our Chianti.
And did this Mr. Fontana really put money into the scheme?
Yes, he built Ressel a ship at Trieste. A small but shapely craft with a 6-horsepower engine. But before she could be tried out, permission had to be obtained from the Austrian port police. They gave their consent grudgingly, and at last came the day for testing. The vessel started off, but had only gone a few hundred yards when there was an alarming explosion and she came to a stop. A steam pipe had blown out.
Did they fix it?
Yes, but unfortunately the Trieste port police wouldn't give permission for a second trial. They considered the new ship too dangerous.
So what happened, man?
Nothing, except that Fontana withdrew from the scheme. All that remains now is Ressel's calculations, and it's on these that I've designed my screw.
Aye. For a foreigner, he seems to have had a wee bit of brains in his head.
We'll build the screw exactly as he laid down, but we'll make it larger to take the greater power of the engines we're going to use.
Mr. Smith, I've followed your very lucid explanations remarkably clearly, but one thing puzzles me. When you refer to we, when you say we'll build and we'll make and we're going to use, to whom does the plural apply?
Why, to me and you, man. That is, if you're interested. You're an engineer. I'm not. These drawings are only rough. You can do them properly. You can supervise the building of both the ship and the screw.
The building of what ship?
Why, the one the Admiralty will authorize me to build.
Have you discussed with them yet?
No, but I shall. The very week the plans are ready. What do you say, Mr. Glencannon? Are you with me?
Well, any man who's already planning to build a ship with Admiralty money afore they've even seen the plans is such an optimist I cannot resist him. Aye, Mr. Smith, I'm with you.
For once, the Admiralty showed immediate interest and authorized Francis Pettit Smith to build the ship. It was a very small vessel of only 6 tons, but it was a success. The Admiralty's report was so favorable that Smith was able to form a company having sufficient capital to build a ship of 237 tons, fitted with new and powerful engines. The great day of the new ship's trial drew near, the day that was to go down in the history of ships purely through a matter of luck. The Archimedes was ready at Portsmouth with Pettit Smith and a party of naval officers aboard. The day was fine and calm, and Glencannon, the engineer, was confident that his engines would perform faultlessly.
Well, Mr. Smith, the weather's holding for you.
Yes, indeed, sir.
You can start as soon as you like. Now, be clear on one thing, Mr. Smith. If your ship can do 5 knots, then we'll take her over and give you a contract for others. But quite frankly, I can't see her doing more than 2 knots.
Shall I order her away? Then we'll see for ourselves.
Very well. Full sail ahead.
Glencannon, full steam.
Aye, Mr. Smith.
I must congratulate you, Mr. Smith. Your ship handles very well. Very well indeed. What's our speed?
5 knots, sir.
Well, you've exceeded our expectations by a handsome margin. Well done, sir.
Hey, what's going on?
What the devil's that?
Mr. Smith, I'll have to shut the engine down. There's something amiss with the screw.
All right, Glencannon. Close her down.
So your screw has broken down, eh? Well, maybe we were satisfied too soon.
It's my opinion, sir, we've struck an obstruction underneath the stern. I'm going overboard to see for myself once I get my clothes off.
Very well, Glencannon, but don't take any risks.
This is very fortunate for the Admiralty, Mr. Smith, this mishap. We'd quite overlooked the possibility of damage to the screw.
Yes, it may be fortunate for you, sir, but it's a bitter blow to me.
What I don't get stuck under the ship, sir.
All right, Glencannon.
Here I go.
I get the fellow swims like a fish, doesn't he?
Mr. Smith, sir. A log of wood or something has sucked into the screw and has broken more than half of it off.
Well, that's the end of our test.
The end of our interest in screws, Mr. Smith. Well, I suppose we'd better signal for help. Well, it's just as I've always said. Can't beat a bit of sail and a good stiff breeze from the southwest.
But Smith didn't care for the indignity of being towed back to port, and when the engineer climbed on board, he received certain instructions whispered in his ear by a crestfallen but still stubborn Mr. Smith.
Listen, Glencannon. I'm not going to be towed back to Portsmouth if I can help it. Start the engine. A little bit of screw that's left may just get us back with our dignity.
Aye, it might, but I doubt it. Still, I'll go and try.
Why, Mr. Smith, the ship's moving.
Moving fast, too. Glencannon, have you got the throttle wide open?
She's not a quarter open, sir. Are we moving?
We certainly are. Open it wide as it'll go.
Why, this is amazing. We must be doing 10 knots or more. What's the meaning of this? I say, Smith, what have you done? There, this is the fastest a ship ever steamed. Amazing. Simply amazing. But what have you done?
The mystery was soon recognized for what it was, an amazing stroke of luck. Ressel and his predecessors had all been on the wrong track. A ship cannot be propelled efficiently by an Archimedes screw. But the underwater obstruction that broke off a large part of Pettit Smith's screw converted it into a rough example of the propellers used today and gave his ship the then astonishing speed of 13 knots. Francis Pettit Smith, by luck, had the invention of the modern ship's propeller thrust upon him, so that his was not a discovery reached by intent. It was purely and simply a matter of luck.
In just 1 minute, we shall hear another fascinating true story, that of Charles Martin Hall. In the meantime, we pause to hear this.
Back now to our narrator and cast for the second unusual story in our presentation, A Matter of Luck.
Charles Martin Hall and A Matter of Luck. From the dim days of the Stone Age to our modern streamlined world, mankind has been concerned with the problem of putting its metals to work. And historians tell us that the extent to which a people used metals was, in olden times, a measure of their civilization. However true this may be, no metal has a more interesting story than aluminium, and in the gaining of it from the crude ores of the earth, Lady Luck played the dominant part. Aluminium was discovered in the 18th century by Sir Humphrey Davy, the great chemist, who decided very soon that it was useless. For although, in combination with other elements, it forms 1/13 of the Earth's land surface, the 18th century knew of no way to obtain it in its pure state. Yes, for very many years it seemed as if Sir Humphrey Davy was right. Then in the 19th century, several processes were found by which aluminium could be isolated in its pure state, but in such very small quantities and at such great cost that until Lady Luck and Charles Hall took a hand, aluminium was 20 times more valuable than gold. Hall was a student at Oberlin College in Wyo in 1885, when his interest was first aroused in aluminium.
Professor, could I have a word with you?
Certainly, Hall. What is it?
It's about this lecture you've just given us on aluminium, sir. It seems a pity that there isn't a process for extracting it in commercial quantities.
Why do you say that?
Well, sir, in the first place, it's so plentiful. When you think that next to oxygen that we breathe, and silicon, aluminium is the most plentiful substance on Earth, it's a pity that it has to cost so much to get hold of a scrap.
I suppose so. Yes, I suppose so.
Then it's so very light. It's lighter than some woods, and it doesn't rust like iron, and it's harder than copper. Why, sir, there must be a million uses for such a metal.
Possibly, my boy, possibly. But you will have to excuse me. Anything further I can let you know, just come to me.
Old hypocrite. Never gets his nose out of books. Hasn't any more interest in aluminium than my Aunt Ethel.
From the day of the lecture on the character and properties of aluminium, Charles Hall was a man with one fixed idea: to find a process for the extraction of the metal that would put it within reach of everyone. And in order to further his ambition, he stayed on at Oberlin College after graduating to take advantage of its laboratory facilities.
Hi, Charlie. Listen, are you going to the University Ball tomorrow night?
Well, as a matter of fact, I don't think I can manage it, Pete.
Why not?
Well, you know how it is. I don't like going to these parties without the proper clothes, and I feel so shabby.
You'll never make enough money for anything while you sit around in the college laboratory trying to make aluminium.
I'm not trying to make it. You can't make something that exists already. I'm merely trying to isolate it cheaply.
Well, how you going? You making any progress?
No, absolutely none.
I thought so. Now, you listen to me, Charlie. I can get you a good job in my father's office, short hours and good pay. What about it?
No thanks, Pete. It's very good of you, but, well, I'm going to stick it out at the college.
But heck, boy. Life's passing you by while you hide in the laboratory.
I'll catch up.
Well, just as you say. But remember, I've only been at work 4 months. And look, a brand new Prince Albert by a New York tailor. And you can't even go to the prom because you don't have anything to wear. Oh, well, that's the way it goes. You work and I'll make money. So long, Charlie. And good luck with the aluminium.
So long, Pete. But if I find what I'm after, I'll finish up with more money than the rest of you at Oberlin put together. And so young Charles Martin Hall stayed in his laboratory while his friends went their way. But as the months went by, he began to wonder if he were wasting his time trying to achieve success where so many eminent scientists had failed. Then, towards the end of the summer vacation, he decided to take a rest and went to the small town of Thompson, where he was born. But even at home, his obsession with aluminium would not leave him, and it was there that he had his first stroke of luck.
Really, Charles? If you don't stop talking about those experiments of yours, I don't know what I'll do.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mother. Do I bore you?
Bore me? No, it's not that so much, but is it all right for a lad of your age to moon about so?
Oh, I'm not mooning, Mother. Why, you talk as though I was lovesick or something.
I'd like it better if you were. It'd be more natural. Here, you've been home a week and haven't even called on Deborah Martin. And her so sweet on you, too. It's a shame.
Now, listen, Mother. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just that I've got my mind set on what I'm doing. And I'm not going to give up. Not even for Deborah Martin or any other girl.
And why is it so important for you to make aluminium? What's the use of it?
Well, for one thing, you could do your cooking with aluminium pots and pans.
What's wrong with the pots and pans I cook with at present?
Oh, copper's too expensive, damages too easily. And iron is too heavy and too hard to keep clean.
We women have been getting along all right with copper and iron for I don't know how many years. And I guess we'll get along for a few more.
All right, then. But it would have thousands of other uses, and there'd be a fortune in it.
People don't make fortunes pottering in laboratories, son. Now, come on. Take the gun and the dog and see if you can shoot some rabbits. You look as if you need some fresh air.
Oh, I thought I might dip into that new book, but...
I know best. Out you go. And if you don't want to go shooting, take a walk down to the glassworks and see old Daniel Clark. He's always asking after you. Thinks a lot of you, does old Daniel.
Now, that's a good idea. How is he?
Ask him when you see him. Now, out you get. I've got my work to do.
Hey there, Daniel. It's me, Charlie Hall.
Why, howdy, child. I haven't seen you since you was back home on vacation.
Yeah, that's right, Danny. I'm sorry I haven't been to see you before, but I've been busy.
You still studying, son? What are you on to now?
I'm trying to find a way to make cheap aluminium. Still, you don't want to hear about that. Say, what's that you've got in the furnace, Daniel?
Oh, that's cryolite, son. We use it to make glass. At least the ways it helps.
It seems to melt easily enough.
Oh, sure. Just shovel it in the furnace and she melts right away. No trouble at all.
Say, that gives me an idea. Cryolite, eh? That's a double fluoride of aluminium.
Ain't nothing but some kind of dirt to me, son.
Yeah, that's what it is, all right. And if it melts as readily as all that, I might just be able to electrolyze it.
What are you talking about, son?
Now, look, Danny, don't mind me. I'm going to rush off home and look up a few things about cryolite. But if I get some pure aluminium, well, it was you who put the idea into my head. So long.
Back once more at Oberlin College, Hall started a new series of experiments with cryolite, aided by a student named Brady. One day, he took some cryolite and melted it in a crucible.
Now, see here, Brady. This is what we do. We take the aluminium earth. Well, what have we this time, by the way?
Bauxite. Best I could get.
Oh, that's all right. We'll drop some in the hot cryolite and see if it dissolves. Right?
Right. You better stand back. It might fizz. Here we go.
It tastes all right. What's more, it dissolved like salt in boiling water. Now, we'll just try electrolyzing it.
You still on that electrolysis? Every other scientist who was ever experimenting with aluminium gave it up long ago.
Well, I'm going to try just once more. Now, will you connect up the wires? I'll fix the crucible.
All right. But I still think you're wasting your time.
Now we'll see. At least I'm trying something new. You've got to admit that.
Well, the current's been on half an hour. How long do you want to leave it?
I guess half an hour is long enough. Switch off. Now then. Well, there we go again. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not one speck of aluminium.
What do you expect?
Oh, I don't know. Could have happened. Look at that electrode, not an atom on it. Oh, well, where do we go from here?
Well, I don't know about you, Hall, but I'm going to find myself another job. I've wasted enough time.
Look, let's try just once more. Maybe we didn't leave it long enough. Just once more.
Not me. I'm through.
Well, take this crucible, will you, before you go?
No, take it yourself.
For the love of Pete, did you have to knock it out of my hand?
Oh, I'm sorry. Honest, I am. Yeah, I'll clean up the mess.
It's no use being sorry. That was the last clay crucible.
Well, there's a couple more on the shelf.
Yeah, but they're lined with carbon. Professor Jewett will knock my brains out for this.
Why don't you use one of the carbon crucibles? You won't know the difference, and I'll cover up for you.
All right. We'll try once more. But I only hope the carbon crucible doesn't stop any reaction we might otherwise get.
Using the carbon-lined crucible, Hall repeated his experiment. First melting the cryolite, then dissolving his aluminium ore in it. Soon the electrodes were ready and the current switched on.
Say, Brady, look, there's something happening here. Look at this, it's getting hotter.
Well, for the love of Pete, it's working.
Switch off. I'm going to have a look at the electrodes.
what do you know about that? You've done it at last. Look!
Globules of aluminium. Look at them, Brady. Little bits of aluminium. Why, I found it. I found it! By a stroke of fortune, Charles Martin Hall had discovered the process by which aluminium is purified to this very day. Electrolysis was the answer, but only in the presence of carbon. And that was the secret which scientists had failed to find in 50 years of research. Hall's fortune was made, and although he spent 3 long years before he succeeded in interesting the industrialists, at last his company was formed. Originally, it was known as the Pittsburgh Reduction Company, but it has grown into the mighty Aluminium Company of America, known as Alcoa, the largest concern of its kind in the world. That was the luck of it. A chance remark by the foreman of a glass factory, a dropped crucible, and Charles Hall stumbled upon the discovery that has given the world all the cheap aluminium it can use. Hall's discovery was due in part to his own determination, but as you have heard, it was mainly a matter of luck.
The 2 authentic stories of the discovery of the screw propeller and the isolation of pure aluminium were dramatized by Lindsay Hardy from factual research material and were directed by Donovan Joyce. The performers included Grant Taylor, Kevin Gunn, Kevin Brennan, Lou Vernon, Charles McCullum, Alan Trevor, Ethel Gabriel, Douglas Herold, Peter Dunstan, and Norman Blackler. Your narrator was Ward Leopold, who invite you to listen again 1 week from now, same night, time, and station, for a further fascinating half hour of A Matter of Luck, a Donovan Joyce production.
A Matter of Luck. A program dedicated to the greatest inventor and scientific discoverer the world has known, Lady Luck, and bringing you in one complete 30-minute presentation 2 authentic and true stories of remarkable scientific achievement. Tonight we tell you of Rudolph Diesel and Joseph May, and how each became famous through A Matter of Luck.
Rudolph Diesel and a Matter of Luck. This is a story of mixed luck, of good and bad. And to tell it, we shall first start almost at the end, on a day in the year 1913, when a very angry man stood in an office of the Admiralty in Berlin's Wilhelmstrasse and actually shouted at a high official.
You say you want my engines. Well, be definite. How many do you want? When do you want them? Give me a contract. I have the plant, the men, the equipment, and the materials for a large order, and I can start right away. For 2 years I have been ready, waiting for you people to make up your minds. I cannot waste time any further.
There are certain tests, my dear Diesel.
Tests? My engine has passed its tests. You know it's the best of its kind in the world. You yourself have told me it's ideal for installation in our submarines. Now you say tests.
But surely you must realize that it's a big decision to put all our eggs in one basket for our submarine engine. And we must proceed.
All right, then. You have 1 week in which to make up your minds. If by today week no contract arrives, I shall consider myself free to sell my invention abroad.
What?
Rudolph Diesel was not a man to be trifled with. For years he'd been kicked around Germany by big business and officialdom, and he'd had enough. Rudolph Diesel, you see, had invented a revolutionary type of engine, and this is how he stumbled upon its secret, with 2 smiles from Lady Luck. In the year 1889, after completing postgraduate research at the Munich Polytechnic Institute, Diesel was working in Paris, manager of a firm making refrigerating machinery. A big job in those days for a young man of 31, and dreaming of inventing an engine which would be more efficient than any then known. One day he was instructing a workman in the refrigerator factory when he set in chain a long series of important events.
Come here, Jacques. Now, here's what I want you to do. Do you understand what is happening here?
Not completely, monsieur.
Very well, then, pay attention. This machine here is a compressor, pumping air under high pressure into the air bottles.
This row of cylinders, monsieur?
Yes. Now, before you see a master gauge showing what pressure is contained within the cylinders. Is that understood?
Yes, I understand.
You will watch the gauge, and when it says 30 kilograms to the square centimeter, you will open the valve, not enough to let out all our compressed air, but just enough to keep the pressure at 30 kilos.
30 kilos, monsieur.
That is right. Take care the pressure does not rise beyond, or we run the risk of an explosion.
I will take care, monsieur. 30 kilos. 30 kilos.
Now take another letter, if you please. Herr Gustav von Beulen and Halbach, 32 Friedrichstrasse, Berlin.
Monsieur Diesel! Monsieur Diesel!
Now what is it? What would I give for 10 good German mechanics instead of these infernal Frenchmen?
Come quickly, monsieur. But quickly.
What is the matter?
The cylinder pressure, monsieur, it rises. Already it has ascended to 40 kilos of pressure.
Then do as I told you. Open the valve.
But I cannot. The valve, the little wheel, she is stuck fast. She will not move.
All right, then. I shall attend to it. Hurry and find me spanners. Now hold fast. Grasp the spanner and pull with all your strength while I tap. Ready? Pull harder. Do you want the pressure to rise until our cylinder bursts and blows us both to perdition? Harder, man, harder.
I pull with all my strength, monsieur.
Then brace yourself. Put your other arm about the cylinder. Now. Oh! What is it?
I am burnt, monsieur.
Now, confound your burns. Hold that cylinder. There is the valve freed, but all our air escaping. Never mind, it is better than an explosion.
But my arm, monsieur, my arm.
Come, it cannot be so bad. Let me see. But it is. That is a bad burn, Jacques. I had no idea. The compressed air would be hot enough to burn you. It must have been almost red hot. Hot enough to set the shop on fire. Yes. Hot enough to ignite a fuel, perhaps. Yes, indeed.
From the mechanic being accidentally burned against a cylinder of compressed air came Rudolph Diesel's first glimpse of the principle on which his dreamed-about engine might work. It is a physical fact that when air is compressed, its temperature rises. The greater the pressure, the greater the heat. And this was the foundation of his new idea.
Suppose a piston were made to work in a cylinder closed at one end, so that as it moved, it compressed the air trapped within the closed end. This air would be tremendously heated, and if at the precise instant a fuel were injected, it would burn and thrust the piston down the cylinder with great power. But the fuel...
Yes, what was he to use for fuel in this revolutionary engine? He learned by another matter of luck at a fashionable reception given in a Paris salon.
Ah, my dear Rudolph, how correct, how German you look tonight.
I trust you approve, Duchess. It is the duty of every good German to be correct.
In all things?
Of course, in all things. Why?
Oh, I was just thinking of that little war we so recently had, your country and mine.
Madame, what is finished, and this is the year 1889. Surely 14 years is long enough to forget it.
Yes, of course it is, and I am a wretched hostess to chide you with it.
If there is one thing quite certain, it is that France and Germany have quarreled their last quarrel. Never again will we be at war.
Dear me, I hope you are right. Oh, now let us forget such serious matters. Come and meet some of the other guests. Monsieur Chambray.
Ah, Duchess.
May I present the so distinguished engineer, Herr Rudolph Diesel.
A pleasure, Herr Diesel. I am about to take a cigar on the terrace. You will join me?
I should be delighted, Monsieur Chambray.
The terrace is pleasantly cool after the heat inside. May I offer you a light?
Thank you. What is that? That device you have there.
This? Oh, just a trinket I had given me. A cigar lighter.
Yes, but how does it work?
My dear Diesel, I haven't the faintest idea.
May I see it?
Well, of course. Here?
A little cylinder with a piston inside. You press the plunger. Ah, of course. The air inside is compressed, it heats, a fuel ignites, we have a flame. Monsieur Chambray, what is the fuel you burn in this?
Oh, something I get from an apothecary in the Rue de Vache.
The smell is familiar. Paraffin, maybe? No, but some volatile derivative of petroleum, that I'll swear. Monsieur Chambray, I must leave at once.
You leave? Oh, but why?
You have made a remarkable discovery for me, Chambray, and I cannot waste a moment to act upon it. Please give my apologies to our hostess.
The cigar lighter had given Diesel the clue he needed for his fuel. Crude oil was what he wanted, and the next 4 years were spent in research, experiments, and analysis. Then, in 1893, he applied for a patent on his first but as yet unbuilt diesel engine, and published a book describing its theory, only to find that he was scoffed at and derided on every side. On every side, that was, but one. That one was the firm of Krupps. They invited Diesel to join their staff, to use their facilities. And joyful of the recognition, Diesel agreed. He set to work and built his engine. It ran like a watch. And then a few months later, Rudolph Diesel began to smell a rat, large and odoriferous.
May I speak to you, Herr Krupps?
Certainly, Herr Diesel. What is troubling you?
The patent for my engine.
Oh, but what is there to worry about?
I have received no papers. As you know, I applied for this patent last year, and when I joined this firm, your office promised to look after all the legal formalities. But nothing so far has happened. Surely if a patent is being issued in my name, there should...
In your name, Herr Diesel? Surely there must be some mistake.
What do you mean, mistake?
The patent for your engine is progressing satisfactorily, but surely when you ask that it be patented in your name, you are perhaps forgetful of the facilities granted you by this firm?
I do not understand. It is my engine, is it not?
My dear Herr Diesel, let us be clear. You made some theoretical investigations into the use of crude oil. Krupps offered you facilities for continuing your investigation as a servant of the company, which you accepted. As a result of the facilities given you, the materials, the workmen, the laboratory, you designed a nice new little engine, which of course is being patented under the name of Krupps.
You have patented it as a Krupps engine?
Well, of course. Who else's name?
But that is robbery.
Of course, you as designer will get a royalty, a percentage of the profits.
Herr Krupps, I shall sue you in the courts.
You will lose against Krupps.
Maybe I will. But if I do, I can still beat you.
patent this engine, sell it, reap all the profits, and I shall still beat you.
Oh? How?
By designing another engine, better than that one that you have stolen. That is how, Herr Krups.
Diesel left the firm of Krupp and labored hard and long on an improved engine. 10 years later, when the patent on the first diesel engine, held by Krupps, ran out, he was ready and immediately offered for sale the new diesel engine. It was a sensation. He offered it to the German Admiralty. Krupps were interested in getting that contract with the old engine. Krupps were powerful. Frederick Alfred Krupps was a member of the Reichstag. The Admiralty stalled, with the result that in 1913, Rudolph Diesel issued his ultimatum.
If by today week no contract arrives, I shall consider myself free to sell my invention abroad.
To a nation plotting war, this was disastrous news. The contract did not arrive. Diesel acted. In England, the British Diesel Company was formed. Diesel prepared to leave for England, taking with him the secrets of the sensational engine.
I am sorry to leave Germany, but I have my own rights to consider. I am not satisfied with the honesty, sincerity, or patriotism of German statesmen or German businessmen. I sail on Sunday night from Antwerp for England.
Accompanied by 2 colleagues from a French firm interested in his engine, Monsieur Georges Carrels and Monsieur Luckmann, Rudolph Diesel boarded the SS Dresden at Antwerp on the Sunday night as planned. She was due at Harwich next morning. But when she arrived...
I'm sorry to have to announce that sometime last night or this morning, one of the passengers, Herr Rudolph Diesel, was lost at sea. A search of the ship failed to reveal any sign of him, and in view of the calm weather, it must be presumed that he committed suicide.
A month later, the dripping, lifeless body of Rudolph Diesel was hauled aboard a Dutch fishing boat at the mouth of the Escant River in the Scheldt estuary. And so, bad luck came to Rudolph Diesel. But at least, he had had the supreme happiness of knowing that he had given the world a miraculous new engine, which to this very day, as it should, bears his name. But as you have heard, Rudolph Diesel's invention was due to 2 things: a workman's burnt arm and a guest at a party with a cigar-lighting gadget. Those 2 things put together show that the invention of the diesel engine was not so much a matter of intent as another matter of luck.
In just 1 minute, we shall tell you our second fascinating story, that of Joseph May. In the meantime, you'll be interested to hear this.
Back now to our narrator and cast for the second unusual but true story in our program, A Matter of Luck.
Joseph May and A Matter of Luck. In a certain sense, It is true to say that a radiogramophone is an electronic voice, a microphone an electronic ear, and the devices used in certain factories to detect the presence of poisonous vapors could be described as electronic noses. But there is still another modern miracle which duplicates another human sense, and its discovery was purely a matter of luck. It came about in an almost eerie way, and appropriately enough, it took place in Ireland, home of the fairies, the leprechauns, and the wee folk. In 1873, the engineer Cyrus Field had completed the laying of his transatlantic telegraph cable, whose European terminus was at Valencia, on Ireland's western coast. And one of the telegraph operators engaged at Valencia was Joseph May, a young man of more than ordinary intelligence, and, as it happened, with an unusually keen sense of hearing. It was a bright sunny afternoon when the story begins, with May at work in the cable terminus.
Oh, good day to you, Joseph. Right on time I am. Oh, begorra, it's a hot day outside. It's good you pulled the blind down and kept the room cool for me. What's been happening on the cable, Joseph, my boy? Anything interesting?
Hold your tongue a minute, Pat, till I get this message down. Divil a mistake if I made this shift, and I don't want to spoil my record now. That's the end of it.
You through for the day?
5 minutes to go.
I'll be off with you to your Colleen. What's 5 minutes more when a man's got to work all night? I'll take over now.
Oh, it's an appetite I have this night. And mutton and potatoes to be eaten by me fireside. Well, there's me key. And there's me seat. I've been keeping it warm for you.
And me with all night before me. Ah, well, good day to you, Joseph. And see you on time in the morning.
Have I ever been late?
Not since Michael O'Houlihan's wedding, you haven't.
Oh, Pat, now, by the by, I want you to listen for something when you're working tonight.
And what might that be?
Well, it's a sort of low humming. So low that I'm thinking I only imagine it. Then when it seems to have gone, there it is again.
Faith, it must be a pixie playing tricks on you, boy. I never hear a humming. Is it all night or all day or when?
Well, generally late in the afternoon when the sun gets down. I never hear it at night, but you might.
Oh, it's imagining things, you are, Joseph. Now, away with you to your supper, or it's waiting for you at the door, your Colleen will be, and a shillelagh in a hand.
Well, more likely a cup and something to keep the corn out. Good night.
Good night to you. Hummings in his ears, eh? Faith, and when he's been married as long as I have, he'll get more than hummings in his ears.
That night, Pat listened, but heard nothing but Morse. But Joseph May was certain about the humming, although no one else seemed to hear it but him. And as time went on, he determined to find what was the cause of it. Weeks went by, and then when all his efforts to solve the mystery had failed, he began to worry, thinking that perhaps his ears were at fault, the ears he depended on for his livelihood. And his wife noticed that something was amiss.
What's the matter with you, Joseph May? Is it tired of me already, you are? And us not married a 12-month?
No, don't be silly, Mavourneen. What do you want to be thinking like that for?
Because for weeks now you come home from the cable station as if you had the cares of all Ireland on your shoulders.
Oh, yeah, then I'll tell you. I think maybe I'm sickening for something and have to be looking for different work.
And what might you be sickening for? I never saw a man better fed, nor looking healthier for matter of that.
Well, every afternoon I hear an intermittent humming noise. Patrick and the others swear I imagine it, but there it is.
Every afternoon?
Well, no. Me desk's nearest the window where the sun shines in. That's where I hear it most. If the sun isn't shining, I don't hear a thing. But away go the clouds, and there's me humming again.
Oh, it's worrying about nothing you are, Joseph. Faith, anyone would hear noises if they had to listen to the cable all day.
But I tell you, Mavourneen, I'm the only one it happens to, and it never happens in the morning. Just light in the afternoon.
I wonder if it's your eyes are giving you trouble. The glare from the sun might upset your eyes and give you a buzzing in the ears.
No, I'm sure it's something else. Something in the equipment.
Well, don't worry any more about it tonight.
All right, Mavourneen. No more tonight. But Faith, I hope I don't have to leave the cable office. I like it there.
I know you do.
I can never forget the wonder of it. There sits a man in New York, tapping out messages with a key, while I sit listening 3,000 miles away, yet as close as if you were in the next room.
Sure. It's a wonderful thing, the cable.
Oh, it is wonderful as the things we'll be seeing someday. One day, mark my words, my Fourneen, one day we'll transmit pictures instead of words, instead of sounds. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Oh, it's making fun of me, you are, Joseph. Send pictures along a wire? Oh, away with you.
Oh, it wouldn't be so difficult if we could find out how to make light vary a current. If we could turn variations of light into variations in electricity, it could be done.
Now it's mysteries you're talking that I don't understand. If your ears buzz all day, it's more rest you need, and so to bed with you. And tomorrow stop your worrying and let the buzzing look after itself.
And so, as time went on, Joseph May began to take the humming for granted. His hearing remained normal, and his health was perfect. So he concluded that either his imagination was playing him tricks, or else there was some fault in his receiving equipment that he could not find. Then, on a particularly sunny day in midsummer, luck played into his hands, and he knew at last that one of his cable instruments was at fault.
Oh, it's me coat I'm taking off, Patrick, before I cook with the heat. Oh, never did I see the sun of old Ireland beat down like this.
Then when you've pulled off your coat, you can pull down the blind a little to keep some of it out till sunset.
That's just the thing I'll be doing. There, is that better for you?
Aye, that's better. Except for the bit with a hole in it.
No, I'll just move some of this equipment and give myself a bit more room. There. Here, me lad, you sit over there.
What is it you're doing with your resistor? That's a delicate instrument, Joseph, and not to be pushed about like that.
I'm taking care, Patrick. Give it a bit of harm if I do... Patrick! Patrick, listen!
And now what's got into you? Is it the humming you're hearing again?
Begorra, that's just what it is. Do you tell me you cannot hear it? Come here and listen.
It's the humming, all right.
I can't use the receiver like that. The humming will drown me signals.
Then I'll help you connect a spare one. Then we'll pull this one to pieces and find what's wrong. Well, my boy, there before us lies a complete receiver. Perfect in every way. Will you tell me what's the matter with it?
Faith, I've tested it piece by piece. Devil a thing is wrong. Yeah, we put it together again and it works as good as new. Yeah, it must be bewitched by the wee folk.
Joseph May lay awake all that night, tossing and turning as the mystery of the humming code receiver went back and forth in his mind. Then he came to a decision, and he could hardly wait to see his friend Patrick at work the following afternoon.
Patrick, here's what we're going to do. We're going to arrange everything as it was when the humming started last night at exactly the same time and see what happens.
Well, just as you say, my boy. But I don't see the sense of it myself. Now, where were we? The resistor was here, and the key plate was here.
No, I moved the resistor, don't you remember?
No, sure, I remember. It was right here after you took your coat off.
Ah, that's right. And that was there. Now then, let's have a look. Ah, the blind. We had the blind drawn very down. Now then, that's exactly how it was. Oh, but there's no humming.
You haven't switched on the receiver.
What? Oh, the devil I haven't. Here.
By the hills of Dannemora. What's that? The instrument is perfect, but the humming goes on. What is the matter with it?
Now it's stopped.
What did you do?
Oh, I didn't do anything.
Well, move your hand out of the light so I can see the thing properly.
Patrick! Patrick O'Shaughnessy, do you know what it is? It hums when the sun shines on it through that hole in the blind. Look! I move my hand so the sun shines on it. It starts. Cut off the sunbeam from the window, it stops. Whatever that resistor is coated with reacts electronically to sunlight. I've made a discovery. A marvelous discovery. That's why my instrument was the only one to buzz. It was the only one in the sunbeams in the window. And you know what it is on that resistor? It's selenium.
Joseph May, without even knowing what he was looking for, had discovered the principle of the selenium, or photoelectric cell, the uncanny little instrument that governs the flow of current in proportion to the amount of light that falls upon it, and which is used in 100 ways to perform the duties of an electric eye. Television, That most modern of miracles depends upon it. And it can be made to do 1,000 things, from counting traffic to opening the door of a millionaire's garage as his car approaches. But Joseph May's discovery was pure luck. His code receiver was coated with selenium, and his desk was beside the window. He pulled down the blind and moved his resistor straight into the beam of sunlight coming through the hole in the blind. Other inventors seized on his discovery and made much of it. But of all discoveries, May's was the least a matter of intent. It was purely a matter of luck.
The two authentic stories of the discovery of the photoelectric cell and the diesel engine were dramatized by Lindsay J. Hardy from factual research material and were directed by Donovan Joyce. The performers included Richard Ashley, Leonard Teal, Kevin Brennan, Brenda Harvey, Harvey Adams, Grant Taylor, Irene Harper, John O'Malley, and David Lowe. Your narrator was Ward Leopold, who invites you to listen again 1 week from now, same night, time, and station, for a further fascinating half hour of A Matter of Luck, a Donovan Joyce production.
A Matter of Luck. A program dedicated to the greatest inventor and scientific discoverer the world has known, Lady Luck, and bringing you in one complete 30-minute presentation 2 authentic and true stories of remarkable scientific achievement. Tonight we tell you of James Watt and Samuel Morse, and how each became famous through a matter of luck. James Watt and a Matter of Luck. The small town of Greenock in Scotland is not particularly noted. It has no great cathedral, no famous seats of learning, no historic castle wrapped about with legend and tradition, no sprawling factories to swell its population, but to be remembered, it needs none of these. For it is the birthplace of a man who, above all others, changed the face of the world, who contributed more than any other to the industrial revolution that turned England into a true empire. That man was James Watt, who took labor out of the hands of men and beasts and put it into the hands of machines. We first meet James Watt in the year 1756 in London, whither he had gone a year before as a young man of 19 to set up shop as a scientific instrument maker.
Give you good day, Master Watt. Plaguey thick fog we have today.
Oh, good day, sir. Plaguey it is indeed, and ruining my health day by day.
Ah, yes, one must be born and bred to London to thrive in it. It's a nasty cough you have.
Some days it gripes my very entrails like the devil himself. What is it, sir? You have work for me?
Work I have for you, from Dr. Solomon of Queen Anne's Walk. It is a delicate balance which requires...
Pray do not describe it, sir. I am doing no more work in London.
The deuce you are not. Oh, that's bad news for those who want instruments repaired. You're leaving London town?
As soon as I finish what I've already contracted to do and can set my affairs in order. The moment that is done, I shall step aboard the first northbound coach and not tarry till I breathe the clear air of Scotland.
Well, I wish you Godspeed on your journey, and better health when you arrive. On my soul, it's a plaguey bad cough, plaguey bad. You should see Solomon. He's a good leech for coughs and agues.
And so, after his brief sojourn in London, James Watt returned to his native heath. But instead of living at home at Greenock, as his parents expected, he opened a shop in Glasgow. And although his health was not robust, it improved the moment he was away from the murks and mists of the Thames estuary. It was in Glasgow that Lady Luck, heavily disguised as the blackest ill fortune, first took a hand in his affairs. Watt was extremely good at his trade and had quickly acquired a connection with professors and students from the university. But this was no good to the powerful Scottish guilds, for one day a caller arrived at his shop.
Ah, you will be Master James Watt, I presume?
That is so, sir. What is your pleasure?
I'm very much afraid, Master Watt, that I'm the bearer of ill tidings. Yes, ill tidings that you're not going to enjoy.
Oh? And who may you be?
Master Watt, I represent the Guild and Association of Guilds to which your calling of instrument maker belongs, and it's my duty to tell you that you must shut your shop forthwith.
Shut my shop, indeed? And why, may I ask? What have I done to offend you?
It's not what you've done, Master Watt. It's what you've omitted to do.
Then, sir, will you be kind enough to explain? I attend the kirk and I offer offence to no man. Why must I close my shop?
Because of the terms of our charter. Now, it's laid down...
Your pardon. Will you be kind enough to wait, sir? I'll attend to you in a moment. As you were saying...
It is laid down in our charter and incorporated in law, that no man may practice any of our trades without first serving his apprenticeship. Now, Master Watt, have you served such an apprenticeship?
Well, no. But I know more of my trade than any man in Glasgow. Instead of me serving an apprenticeship to many instrument makers, they should serve one with me. The idea is ridiculous.
Yeah, that may be so, and then it may not. But a statute is a statute, Master Watt. And until you've served 7 years article to an approved instrument maker, you will shut your doors, and keep 'em shut, or suffer the penalty at law. Do you understand?
Aye, I understand. But there's nary a scrap of sense in it that I can see. No, nor justice either.
You're not required to see sense, Master Watt. You're merely required to shut your doors. See that you do so. Good day.
And now, sir, my apologies for keeping you waiting. The more so since it appears that I can do nothing for you.
Permit me to introduce myself, Master Watt. My name is Black, Joseph Black, lecturer in chemistry at the university, at your service.
Your servant, sir. I suppose you overheard what our friend from the guilds had to say.
Upon my soul, I could not help it. If I may say so, you've been taking a little too much of your competitors' business. You're too good for them.
And a wee scrap of good it's done me.
Aye. All this talk of laws and statutes is fiddle-faddle. These fellows from the guilds never grind their axes so sharp as when they've something to gain from it. Well, I suppose I shall have to take my business somewhere else, little as I've a taste for it.
I fear so, sir.
But, wait. I've an idea. Most of your work comes from the university, does it not?
Aye. 4 jobs out of 5 at least.
I thought so. It was Sinclair who recommended you to me. Now, listen. Why do you not set up your shop in the university grounds?
And how will that be to my advantage?
Don't you see, man? The guilds have no authority over the university.
None at all. I can trade there?
With impunity. The guilds may not even enter our grounds without the Chancellor's authority. And to thank, we have good King James VI, God bless him.
Then I shall do so, and never forget my good fortune that you happened in here at just such a time.
It is my pleasure, Master Watt. I see a tavern across your street. Shall we drink perdition to the guilds and health to King James?
By a stroke of incredibly good luck, James Watt was able to continue his profession, not in ordinary surroundings, but in the special atmosphere of the university. Between him and his newfound friend, Professor Black, there soon developed a close bond, all of which was beneficial to Watt. For contrary to the widely held belief, at this time he knew nothing of steam, and cared less for steam engines. By 1760, there was already a steam engine in existence, that of Newcomen. But this was a crude affair whose use was restricted to pumping water out of mines. And Watt's interest in steam began when Joseph Black walked into his workshop carrying a strange-looking apparatus.
Jimmy! Jimmy, where are you?
Coming, Joseph.
Here's a thing that'll tickle your fancy, Jamie. I'll wager you cannot tell what it is.
That I cannot. A wee weirdie if ever I saw one. What is it?
It's a model of Newcomen's steam engine, and it has something amiss. I want you to put it right.
If I am to mend it first, you must show me how it works. Of all the queer contraptions.
Now look closely. This, shaped like a kettle, is the boiler, and beneath it you build a fire. The water boils, steam flows through this pipe to the cylinder, this, and now watch. In the cylinder moves a piston, and steam entering pushes it up like this. When it's raised, cold water squirts in. The steam's condensed. There's a vacuum in the cylinder, and air pressure forces the piston down again.
And all worked by steam.
Yes. Jamie, I must hurry. I'll leave this with you for as long as you take to mend it. And if you canna, I don't know who can.
The engine interested James Watt more than anything he'd ever seen. And not content to work on it by day only, he took it home to explore its mysteries and study the properties of steam. By this time, he was newly married to a distant cousin, one Margaret Miller, and history records that she found the Newcomen engine tiresome, to say the least.
Maggie, my bonny wee lass, hurry up with supper, for I've me engine to get back to as quick as can be.
I declare, James Watt, if that horrid belching thing was a little shapelier, you'd chase me away and marry it instead.
There's no way to talk of a thing that could change the way of the world, Maggie.
All that engine could change, James Watt, is the colour of my curtains. It's back in Killicranky I should be this minute. Smoke and steam from daylight to dusk.
Oh, lassie, bear with it a little longer. I've finished mending it, but I cannot bring myself to return it to Joseph Black. Not until I know why it behaves as it does.
It behaves the way Master Newcomen meant it to, doesn't it?
Listen, and I'll try and explain it to you. Now, the boiler makes a certain amount of steam, and all the steam goes into the cylinder. But how much work does it do?
It makes a muckle of work for me, keeping the house clean after it.
The steam loses its power somehow, and that's what I mean to find out. Aye, Maggie, when I find out how to put the steam to work properly, I'll have an engine to do anything I like with. Anything.
What James Watt said was true. The Newcomen engine was so crude, with its cylinder full of steam one minute and cold water the next, that it could scarcely be called an engine at all. To make it work, its steam had to be condensed, and this meant that during every stroke the cylinder was alternately heated, then chilled,
heated, then chilled. Soon winter came on, and with it the stroke of luck, the flash of inspiration that gave James Watt and the world the modern steam engine. We see him at home once more, still racking his brains over what seemed to be an insoluble problem.
There must be a way. There must be a way. Steam enters. The piston goes up.
Jamie! Let me in, Jamie. I haven't the key.
Oh, I'm coming, lassie. Oh, come in. Oh, lassie, I must be frozen to the bone. I should have gone to MacDougall's for you. It's a raw, cold night tonight.
Ah, it is that, Jamie. Oh, let me warm myself before I get your supper.
Ooh, and now the room's as cold as outside. It is a wretched house, this, Maggie, with the door to our front room opening to the street.
Aye, the man that built it shouldn't have built even byres for the cows. Here's our only fireplace in the room that opens onto the street.
Well, we'll move to a better one someday. Oh, 'tis cold. The room's as warm as toast, then you open the front door and it's as cold as charity itself. We should have the fire in another room.
Oh, the front door opening from another room.
Aye, it's like that poor wee engine of Newcomen's. Hot one minute, cold the next. Oh. Aye, lassie. Aye. There's me answer to the steam engine.
Are you taking a fit, Jamie?
Aye, a fit of understanding at last. All Newcomen's engine needs is a separate condenser. Chill the steam away from the cylinder. Then the cylinder will always be hot. It's the same thing as putting our fireside into another room. Black! I must see Joseph Black!
The door opening on a wintry night had shown Watt how to put steam to work, where before most of it had gone to warm up a chilled cylinder. From Watt's invention of the separate condenser sprang the whole gamut of steam engines as we know them today, in ships, in locomotives, in factories, and in powerhouses. Before long, they were turning the looms and hammering in the forges that laid the foundations of the wealth and power of Queen Victoria's England. Few inventions have had such far-reaching effects on our modern world, and few were so much the outcome of luck. James Watt wanted to be an instrument maker, but London fogs forced him back to Glasgow. The Scottish guilds forced him into the university, and luck threw in his path the man who enabled him to study and learn, and eventually brought him a Newcomen engine to mend. So Watt's improvement of the steam engine was not a matter of intent. It was just a matter of luck.
In just 1 minute, we shall present the second fascinating story in tonight's program. In the meantime, we step aside to hear from your announcer.
Back now to our narrator and cast for the second unusual but true story in our program, A Matter of Luck.
Samuel Finley Morse and A Matter of Luck. Luck
was the dominant factor in the second career of Samuel Finley Morse. In 1832, he had already earned a name for himself as an artist of more than ordinary talents when he embarked from Le Havre on the sailing packet Sully for New York and his American home. He was nearly 40 years old, and after losing his beloved wife, was returning from 3 years' study and travel in Italy and France. There would be several weeks with nothing to see all day but the sea and the sky, and nothing to hear but the wind in the rigging and the monotonous sound of the ship's bell. So the passengers were glad to have on board with them such a famous and charming man as Morse and the young Dr. Jackson from Boston. Dr. Jackson was not only excellent company, but he was also a skilled amateur conjurer and physicist, so that everyone crowded into the saloon that first night out to watch him perform his magic.
You have all been very kind to bear with my little tricks, ladies and gentlemen, so I've kept my best one till last. Now, please, everyone, observe my silk hat. It is empty. You're all agreed? Then to prove it, I close it up. Now, the latest fashion from the Faubourg Saint-Germain, ladies and gentlemen, the collapsible top hat. Well, there's nothing in it, is there? Right. I place it under the cloth, and I permit it to expand. So. Now, closely. Abracadabra! May I present you to the ship's cat? Now, thank you. Now, if I may have your attention for just one more moment, here is something altogether different.
Samuel Morse didn't dream that the moment when Dr. Jackson was setting up his apparatus for a new piece of magic was to alter the course of his whole future life. That from that moment his life was to pursue an unimagined course filled with new ideas, hopes, and struggles. But that was to be the luck of it.
It is a scientific experiment that I venture to say will astonish you, known as the electromagnet. Now, some years ago, it was discovered that if a piece of soft iron is wound about with a coil of wire connected to a battery, it is magnetized just so long as the current from the battery is switched on. Now, observe closely. Here is the magnet. Now, I switch on the current and bring the magnet close to this heap of nails here. You see, the magnet picks up every one and holds them aloft. But watch. The current is switched off. And the nails all fall headlong to the table. A marvelous phenomenon, ladies and gentlemen. The controlled electromagnet.
As Jackson's magnet picked up a handful of nails and dropped them again, in obedience to his touch on the switch, Morse had a great idea. He knew something of electricity and could scarcely wait to compare notes with Jackson on deck the following day.
Good morning, my dear Morse. Not seasick, I'm glad to see.
No, indeed. I'm lucky enough to be a good sailor. That's more than you can say for some of our fellow passengers.
I always say it's a matter of one's approach to sea travel. Some people I know get sick the moment they book their passage.
The cynical physician, huh?
Me? Cynical? Far from it. How'd you like my little performance last night?
I was delighted. And that's what I want to talk to you about. Do you know, Jackson, for 20 years I've had an ambition simmering in the back of my mind.
Yeah, I know. You want to paint the King of England or someone.
No, nothing of the kind. I want to discover a means of rapid communication. And last night you showed me the way.
I showed you the way with a few poor conjuring tricks?
No, with your electromagnet.
My dear fellow, I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about.
You will in a minute. Now listen. Last night you switched on your current, and the magnet picked up some nails.
Yes, but I don't see how that's going to help you.
Now, wait a minute. Just suppose you'd been in the next cabin with your switch, or down at the other end of the ship. You could still have picked up the nails in the saloon and dropped them again if the wire had been long enough.
Now I begin to see what you mean.
You see? Given a strong current and enough wire, you can transmit signals by switching on and off in some prearranged manner. A magnet will do many things besides pick up nails.
Yeah, it's a brilliant idea, Morse. A brilliant idea, but I can't for the life of me see you ever making anything of it.
Well, there are difficulties, I admit. But they can be overcome.
Oh, no, Morse. The conception is good. A tribute, in fact, to your artistic imagination. But I don't think the magnet will ever be anything but a scientific toy. Just a toy of no practical use at all.
To the disappointment of the women passengers, the handsome Mr. Morse spent the remainder of the voyage in his cabin, appearing only for meals, and not always then. He was working away at plans for his communication device, and by the time Sully tied up at New York, he had its first principles worked out. An hour later, he was home, discussing his trip with his younger brother, Richard.
So that's the story, Dick. There's a fellow named Stevenson in England who has a steam engine that has done 35 miles an hour. There are factories springing up everywhere. The whole tempo of life is quickening, Dick. And only communications have remained unchanged this last 1,000 years. Why, African blacks are ahead of us with their tom-toms. I'm going to change all that. And I have the first plans right here in this notebook. I'm done with painting. From now on, I'm an experimenter.
But darn it, old Samuel, how are you going to live? What are you going to use for money?
Oh, I'll get along somehow. But if it takes me 20 years, I'll find an answer to the problem of communicating over long distances instantaneously.
Morse spent the next 2 years wrestling with his first model apparatus. It worked well enough up to a point. He could make his magnet move a small iron bar from other rooms of his house. But what was the use of that? How was he to transmit messages? His painting connection had long since dwindled to nothing, and he was earning no money, so he had to sell household furniture to keep himself fed. Then his brother decided that this ridiculous obsession had gone on long enough.
Now look here, Sam, this can't go on. When the house is stripped bare, what then?
But don't you see, Dick, I'm so close to success right now. I have my switch and battery in one room. That could quite well be Boston, and my magnet and bar in here. Say this is New York. I press my switch in there, and the bar moves on its hinge in here.
But in the name of heaven, what's the use of that?
Well, all I have to do is figure out a way of turning the bar movements into an intelligible message. Look, I've worked out a code that's pretty good.
No, you're wasting your life. And a good deal of my money. Even though I don't begrudge it. You can't keep on selling things all the time. Why, you'll sell that old clock of Granddad's next.
That lot of use it is. Confounded thing hasn't gone for years. I never did like grandfather clocks anyway.
Well, how can you expect it to go? Look here.
Oh, what is it?
Come and see for yourself.
Well, what do you know about that? I never thought to look down at the bottom inside it. I always tried the works.
Fine scientist you are. Now, who could have put all that old paper down there? Oh, you can see what's wrong. The pendulum is scraped back and forth across the top sheet, like you can see by the marks. Then one day it stuck and wouldn't swing anymore.
Oh, well, may as well clean it out and set it going, I suppose. Here, lend a hand.
No, I'm all covered in dust. Oh, what a mess.
Well, now, see if it goes. Hand over the key, will you?
There it is, good as new. Well, I'll have to run along. Now, whatever you do, don't stuff all that paper back into it, or I'll have to fix it for you again. That top sheet is rather interesting, though.
Oh, how's that?
Well, if you cared to, you could count how many times the pendulum swung across the paper before it stuck, just by counting the marks, see? Each one's a little different.
Yes, that's so. Each time it scraped across, it made a little mark. Well, if you're going now, when will I see you again?
Next week sometime, I guess. Good luck with your work, and don't sell that clock.
The clock? The pendulum and marks on that piece of paper. Why, that's it. There it is. The telegraph. Dots and dashes over the telegraph.
And so Samuel Morse built his first practical telegraph at last, by mounting a pencil on his magnet-controlled bar and suspending it over a strip of paper moved slowly by clockwork. When he touched the key of his telegraph, the pencil moved onto the paper. A short touch meant a dot, a long one a dash. And the telegraph was from that day an accomplished fact. In January 1838, Samuel Morse's telegraph was accepted by the United States Congress. And though much more work on it had still to be done, its original conception was the result of a conjurer's entertainment and its first practical working due to an old grandfather clock that wouldn't go. Yes, we'll allow you that once Samuel Morse had been inspired by the conjurer, the invention of the telegraph was a matter of intent. But you will agree that the fact that finally it did work was just a matter of luck.
The two authentic stories of the discovery of the steam condenser and the telegraph were dramatized by Lindsay Hardy from factual research material and were directed by Donovan Joyce. The performers included Kevin Brennan, Lyndall Barber, Athol Fleming, Alan Trevor, Kevin Gunn, Leonard Teal, Grant Taylor, and Alan Light. Your narrator was Ward Leopold, who invites you to listen again 1 week from now, same night, time, and station, for a further fascinating half hour of A Matter of Luck, a Donovan Joyce production.
A Matter of Luck. A program dedicated to the greatest inventor and scientific discoverer the world has known, Lady Luck, and bringing you in one complete 30-minute presentation, two authentic and true stories of remarkable scientific achievement. Tonight we tell you of Katherine Blodgett and Dr. Charles Soria, and how each became famous through A Matter of Luck. Katherine Blodgett and A Matter of Luck. The staid conservative city of Boston in the year 1898 saw the birth of a child who was destined to become one of the most remarkable women on the American scene. Katherine Burr Blodgett, Master of Science, Doctor of Philosophy, and graduate of the Cavendish Laboratory of Physics at Cambridge. A most unusual list of attainments for a woman, you'll say, and rightly too. For Katherine Blodgett has taken her place with the foremost American scientists of her time in a field that has always been dominated almost exclusively by men. But, as with so many others, luck played its part in her career, and particularly in a remarkable discovery she made in 1936. Her story, however, begins long before that, in 1914, when she was 16 years of age and at school in Paris.
Well, I must say, Katherine, you seem to have done extremely well at your studies. What's this? 98% for pure mathematics. What's that?
Pure maths? Oh, Mother, you know, geometry and trig and all that. The stuff they gives us bores me rather. I'm doing calculus by myself now. Differential calculus, of course.
Do you mean that you actually understand those things?
Of course. They're as simple as ABC. Listen, Mummy, yesterday I found a marvelous new theorem, Stephenson's theorem.
Please, Katherine, please. I am quite prepared to take your word about this Mr. Stephenson.
Oh, it isn't a Mr. Stephenson. It's Stephenson's theorem. He thought of it first, so they call it Stephenson's.
Never mind. Did you enjoy your ride in the Bois today?
Yes, and a carriage passed, and who do you think was in it?
Well, tell me, child, who?
Eve Curie. Eve Curie herself.
And who might Eve Curie be?
Oh, Mother, do you mean that you've never heard of the Curies? Pierre and Marie, that's Eve's mother, are probably the cleverest people in France, the most brilliant scientists. Mummy, when are we going back home to America? I'd love to see Uncle Irving again.
Oh, he's not your Uncle Irving. He was merely a friend of your father's.
It's the same thing. I'd like to be a scientist, just like Madame Curie and Uncle Irving. You think I could, Mother?
Oh, of course not. It's ridiculous. Whatever would you do fiddling and tinkering in a laboratory like Irving Langmore?
But a girl as strong-minded as Katherine Blodgett could not be kept from her chosen career. And when her family returned to America, she embarked on her scientific studies in earnest. First at the Girls' School of Bryn Mawr, and then at the University of Chicago, and under Lord Rutherford at Cambridge. By 1926, she was beginning to make her mark, and she joined her old friend and mentor, Dr. Irving Langmuir, at the General Electric Laboratories in Schenectady, where soon they commenced work on a complicated problem involving the wavelengths of light. Now, this was a stroke of luck, although Katherine Blodgett did not know it at the time.
Oh, this is quite the most vexing problem I've ever had to tackle, Doctor. You want me to find a way to measure the wavelengths of light. A color gauge, actually. I'll be hanged if I can get to first base.
Have you ever had the experience, Katherine, of going to sleep with a problem on your mind and waking up with the answer on the tip of your tongue?
Lots of times.
Well, I woke up this morning with a clue on our color gauge. Do you know what we want? We want a substance that will, of its own accord, spread itself just one molecule thick on, say, a glass surface.
Do you mean in the same way that oil spreads itself on a puddle in the road and gives that rainbow effect, the colors?
Precisely. Now, let me explain the theory of it. Suppose the
The scientific basis of Dr. Langmuir's idea is too complicated for any but trained minds to grasp. But it boiled down to a search for a substance the size of whose molecule was accurately known and which would spread itself exactly as oil does on a roadside puddle, spreading and spreading till the layer could become no thinner. The search was not a hard one. Such substances are not common. And soon the day came when Katherine Blodgett reported her success.
There you are. I told you it wouldn't be long. Our stuff is any one of the stearate group.
Good work, Catherine. Stearits, eh? Good old soap. You know, I wonder if we aren't just a little pompous. Why don't we always call them soaps instead of the stearates?
Because we have to keep face. I went to my doctor the other day, and he said he couldn't tell me what was wrong until he'd applied immediate auscultation. When I asked him what he was talking about, he said he was going to listen to my heart beating. The fathead.
The problem of the color gauge was finished and forgotten as the years went by. And we see Katherine Blodgett 10 years later, in 1936, still at Schenectady, and still associated with Dr. Irving Langmuir. The distant war clouds were gathering, and covertly, the war departments of many nations were looking to their weapons. This was the reason for the request made to Dr. Langmuir as head of one of the country's foremost centers of research.
I don't know if the thing is in your line, sir, but you might see what you can do. What we want is a 100% non-reflecting glass.
For binoculars, cameras, and so forth, huh?
So forth is right. For bomb sights, rangefinders, periscopes, refraction meters, I could go on for a week. Yes, sir, modern lenses are just about as good as they ever will be, but that's not good enough. We want a reflection-proof glass to make them of, and we want them for war.
I've got just the person to tackle this. Katherine Blodgett.
Who? Katherine who?
Oh, it's no one you know, Jerry. You get back to your war department. I'll look after this.
For the first time in her life, Katherine Blodgett came up against a problem that completely baffled her. Months went by, months of unremitting work. But, as she said to Langmuir,
Oh, it's no use, Uncle Irving. I'm completely, utterly flummoxed. I haven't even a starting point yet.
It's a long time since you called me Uncle Irving. Is this thing getting you down?
I won't let it beat me. I won't. Now I'm going all female on you. Sorry. If there's one thing I loathe, it's emotional females.
Well, if you want to know what I think, you've been working too hard. Why don't you take a run into town and see a show over the weekend? Relax and all that.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, this glass business. There's just nowhere to begin. Shall I treat the surface, or shall I mix something with the glass? And if so, what? Non-reflecting glass. I wish I'd never heard of it.
Oh, forget it. I'm going to take you in hand. Do you know Jerry Wills?
Never heard of him.
He's the War Department guy that started all this, and he's going to help it along. You, my dear Miss Blodgett, are on a blind date with one Gerald Hennessy Wills. No argument. You're going to town for dinner and a show, and with Mr. Wills.
Oh, I've never laughed so much. What a delightful show.
Did you really enjoy it?
I thought it was enchanting. The man who played... What was it?
Rodriguez?
Yes. He was quite the most fantastic creature I've ever seen. How do they do it?
Oh, say, that's an idea. Would you like to meet him? I can take you round to his dressing room if you like.
Could you really? I've never in all my life been backstage. Oh, but no, Mr. Wills. He'll wonder whatever you're doing with such a frump.
Rubbish. Come on.
From the stalls, one would never believe there was such an array of stuff back here. Simply amazing. All these ropes and trappings and mirrors.
Well, come along. I want you to meet this fella. Then you can wander about here all you like. Catherine, what is it? Catherine. What are you staring at?
Oh, sorry, it's these mirrors. What have they done to them? They don't reflect the lights at all.
Oh, they always smear stage mirrors with soap.
And they always have, as far as I know. Crude but effective.
I wish my problem was as simple.
The solution to her problem was staring her in the face. But it was not until she returned to the laboratory after the New York weekend that Katherine Blodgett realized her astonishing luck.
Well, did you take in that show?
I most certainly did. It was marvelous, and you were quite right. I needed a change of scene. Well, back to work, racking my 38-year-old brain for an optical glass that won't reflect light.
I'll leave you to it. Oh, but tell me more about the show before I go. What'd you do after? Store club or something?
Oh, no. No cafe society for me. But we did go backstage. And you know what? They stopped stage mirrors from reflecting the lights by smearing them with soap.
Oh, didn't you know that?
Of course not. I've never been backstage before. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could fix our optical glasses simply... Uncle Irving!
Well, what's the matter?
Do you remember 10 years ago that color gauge thing we worked out by using the stearets? And you said we were getting too pompous, we should call them soaps.
Well, what about it?
Don't you see, the soap they use in the theater is nothing but a crude stearet. I'm going to let my pure stearet spread itself on our lenses, 1 molecule, 2 molecules thick. There's our reflection-proof glass. We've known about it for 10 years, but we were too stupid to see.
Well, I'll be jiggered.
And all through a blind date at a theater.
Katherine Blodgett herself has said that her whole career was a matter of luck. The luck of being in Paris and seeing Eve Curie drive by finally decided her on a scientific future. But her invention of non-reflecting glass, the glass with its microscopically thin film of stearic acid, that too was due to good fortune. But for her chance backstage visit and her observation of the soaped mirrors, she might never have stumbled on the secret, and optical instruments might today be far below their present high degree of efficiency. Would you say it was all a matter of intent or just a matter of luck?
We pause for just 1 minute before telling you our second intriguing story, that of Dr. Charles Soria. Meanwhile, a word from our sponsor. Back now to our narrator and cast for the second unusual but true story in our program, A Matter of Luck.
Dr. Charles Soria and A Matter of Luck. Nestling in the green folds of the Jura Mountains, in a secluded corner of France, lies the small market town of Saint-Lothaire. Today it is swept almost out of existence by the harsh flail of war. But in 1831, it was peaceful and quiet, as a country town should be, and the home of an undistinguished physician named Charles Soria. Two connected events set this forgotten man on the road towards an invention out of which others made countless millions. But what Lady Luck gave with one hand, she took away with the other, leaving the whole world to benefit where Soria reaped nothing. Soria was a crusty middle-aged gentleman when the first event took place. He was a bachelor with a firmly rooted distrust of all womankind, and his home was run with military efficiency by a very tyrant of a housekeeper. One night, Soria sat before his fire, performing his unvarying after-dinner routine.
Marie, where have you hidden my tobacco pouch?
Your tobacco pouch is not hidden.
Oh, then why is it not to be found?
Because you've not looked. Behold on the mantelpiece behind the clock, where it has its business to be.
Ah, it's always the same. Why must I always search high and low for things? Ha! My after-dinner pipe. The tongs, if you please. There's but one way to light a pipe, with a hot coal. Thank you. Confound and consign it to the pit! 1,000 curses and another curse! Quickly, woman, do something! Act! Move! I'm ablaze!
You may put yourself out. Of your own carelessness, you drop a too large coal on yourself. You smoke, you burn, you dance about. What's all this to do with me?
Ah, that woman, that monster! Ha! I will spoil her triumph. Ha! My next journey to Lyon, I shall buy myself a pipe lighter. Yes, then we shall see what we shall see. Ha!
Yes, this is the best shop in all Lyon for buying of pipes.
But I do not want a pipe. I want a lighter for a pipe. Such as I've heard has been newly invented. That is what I want.
With pleasure. They're of platinum. They work with chemicals, as you see here.
Does it work? The flame, does it occur at will?
Assuredly. One removes the cap, one does so, and so, the flame.
It will do. I shall buy it. How much money do you require?
400 francs.
But it is not your whole shop and your body and your soul that I wish to buy. It is this one little pipe lighter. Now then, how much?
400 francs.
400 francs for that? Do you think I am Baron Rothschild himself? Come, my friend. 50 francs.
400 francs.
Oh, it is an outrage. You are a bandit, monsieur. A Corsican, a robber. 75 francs.
400 francs.
Bah! You may keep your pipe lighter. Bah!
And so Dr. Charles Soria went home to Saint-Lothaire empty-handed. And the pipe-lighting duel with his housekeeper went on. But Soria determined to investigate the position with lighting devices, and the man to consult was obviously the town's one apothecary, the local expert on chemicals.
Ah, my dear fellow, you could do me a great service if you will give me some information I require.
With the greatest pleasure, Doctor. Now then, you require me to mix you a physic, no?
No. I want you to tell me what substances, when alone or mixed with something else, will burn readily. When rubbed, perhaps, or struck.
There is, of course, phosphorus.
Phosphorus, eh? And what does that do?
It burns fiercely the moment it comes into contact with the atmosphere.
Good. I shall buy some. Aha! Now I shall light my pipe in peace.
You want phosphorus to light your pipe?
But assuredly.
Dr. Soria, there are some things about phosphorus you should learn, if you wish to live.
Oh, and what is that?
Here, in this little bottle of water, lies a piece of white phosphorus. Now then, with care, with tongs, not my fingers, oh no, we withdraw the piece of phosphorus.
Ah, it smokes.
Verily it smokes, and it is still wet. Observe. We place it on the floor. It dries. Now, a fierce burning. You would light your pipe with that? In your own house?
What else have you?
I will show you the effect of mixing sugar, chlorate of potash, sulfur and phosphorus, and other things. Patience, you will learn.
The result of Soria's visit to the doctor was contained in a large parcel he brought to his house that day. And from then, he spent every moment he could spare from his practice in the endless search for a safe, self-igniting mixture. Marie, that shrewd mistress of invective, was delighted. Every failure put another weapon in her hand.
And what do you mix today, my friend, huh? Perhaps some flour with it, and your pipe would light, no? Pepper, no?
Oh, away with you, woman. Am I to have no peace? In my own house must I be badgered? Look, see for yourself how near success I am. A sliver of wood, coated with sulphur, here in the basin.
In my basin?
In the basin, a mixture of chlorate of potash and phosphorus melted. I dip the sliver in the molten mixture. It dries almost at once. I strike it on the stone thus. Oh, name of a... What is wrong this time?
Oh, you are close to success. Yes, I see how close you are. Come, light your pipe with it. Next you will have no head.
And so it went month after month, year after year, to the accompaniment of clouds of smoke, explosions, noxious fumes, and fierce quarrels. Then he decided to reduce the phosphorus in his mixture to a minute amount, with a result...
Mary, I have it. I have found a lucifer that lights as it should. See? And another. You see, I am an inventor. I shall be the richest man in France. You also.
Ah, my little bearded one. But it's absurd. It will not continue to work. You have two such in your pocket. They rub together. And what then, eh? Poof! Flame, wisp. Where are you? You are smoke.
You must carry one only. And what good is one?
No good at all. You light your pipe in the wind, it blows out. What then? You hurry home for another. No, it is ridiculous.
For once, Mary, I think you are right. Yes, as this lucifer is, it is more dangerous than useful. What we require is a match that will ignite only when struck against a special substance, perhaps carried on the box itself.
As all enthusiasms such as Dr. Charles Soria's must, his eventually came to an end. He had indeed invented the forerunner of our present waxed Vesta, but there was still a long way to go. Soria was content to remain a country doctor, and he was about to abandon his search when he stumbled on his final discovery by a stroke of purest luck.
Mary, we will have a tidying, a clearing. The bottles and the beakers and the crucibles, all outside.
What, do my ears deceive me? Can it be that you're talking sense at last?
Mary, our little game, shall we put it aside for a moment? I'm tired. I'm disappointed. 3 years I have searched.
Yes, and I have watched. Many times I've been worried, fearing that perhaps the house would come down about my ears. But now, it is finished.
It is finished. All in the room we will throw away. We will paint the walls and carpet the floor, and it will be a study once more.
We throw out everything?
Everything.
Here's a box of little wooden slivers. Would they not do for kindling?
Those? Those were the ones I dipped in the mixture without phosphorus. They would never strike at all. See? Chlorate of potash and sulphur. Nothing else. They will not ignite. Oh, it lights. I scrape it on the wall and it lights.
Try another. Quickly, try another one. Oh, no flame. What is happening? This one lights, this one does not. Are they all the same?
Exactly the same.
Then why? Why do they not behave alike?
I scraped one here on the wall and the other here. Mary, see? On the wall. A stain.
What is it?
It is phosphorus mixed with glue. I remember. It was spilt, and in cleaning it up, I smeared some on the wall. Once more we try. I strike a match against the stain on the wall. Oh, Mary, hold your breath. But, Mary, we have found it. We've found the safety match. Oh, we've found it.
Charles Soria had discovered the safety match by accident. His match head, coated with chlorate and sulfur, would strike only on phosphorus, nothing else. And of the entire area of the walls of his laboratory, he had struck one across a patch of phosphorus and glue. But from this discovery, he gained not a penny in reward. He was an unworldly little man, and an Austrian firm was soon making a fortune from his vestas, while a Swedish syndicate quickly built his safety matches into a worldwide industry. The country doctor had neglected to patent them. But he did not care a whit. He had his patients and his housekeeper to quarrel with, and there is no record of him regretting his lost millions for an instant. So next time you light the gas or shelter the flame to light your cigarette in the wind, remember, you're taking advantage of a discovery that was not a matter of intent. No, it was just a matter of luck.
Our stories of the chance discovery of non-reflecting glass and of the safety match were dramatized from factual research material by L.J. Hardy and were directed by Donovan Joyce. The performers included Moira Carlton, Robert Bernard, Elizabeth Wing, Kenrick Hudson, Tom Hudson, Clifford Cowley, Williams Lloyd, Agnes Dobson. Your narrator was Richard Davies, who invites you to listen again 1 week from now, same night, time and station, for a further half-hour presentation of A Matter of Luck, a Donovan Joyce production.